Well, I think climate change really is an important issue. I don't think people. I think people are aware of it as an issue. I'm not sure people realize this how significant it is. I mean, we don't know. The science isn't definite, but there's such a big risk that the planet, as we know it, can be altered in ways that we haven't anticipated. And even if it's just a question of it being a few degrees hotter. I mean, even if it's not some major economic thing, if it's not flooding, but just the idea that the world could be different, the glaciers can melt. I just don't like that. But of course there are much broader implications which are possible and that really can seriously affect the planet. And I think just in general our need for energy is also has dangerous directions, not just in terms of climate change, but in terms of all the political implications that it has, economic implications. So I think, and oddly enough, we don't even make that connection as much as we should. I mean, to some extent it is, obviously. But the overriding need for more and more energy is really shaping so much of the way our planet is developing. And that's just crazy. We have to face that and figure out what to do about it. I mean, that's part of the problem, I think, is that everyone wants it to be someone else's responsibility. And another problem is that I think people go from thinking it's not a problem to thinking it's a big problem, but they have no chance of doing anything about it. So to turn it into something where individuals and companies and the government can actually make changes is a big, difficult problem, but I think it's very important. I think just in general, the ability to sort of plan for the future. Right now, our political system and our business system is so concentrated on short-term gains that it's very hard. I mean, it's just not built into the system to worry about long-term effects, and that's very dangerous. I think it's very difficult in government. I think one of the things is that, and maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but I do think that it would help to really distribute information in a more comprehensive way. Even for the war in Iraq, which is obviously a big issue, we haven't talked about it, but it's really hard to read the articles about Iraq because they sort of just say, okay, another few people were killed, which is horrible, but there's nothing we can do with that information. It's sort of similar information every day. We know it's bad, but there's nothing to grasp onto. There's no storyline. There's nothing. And I was talking to a reporter recently. I mean, part of the problem is that people aren't over there. They're not doing in-depth reporting. They're not doing things. But somehow, at least we could understand perhaps what makes this war different from other wars. Why aren't people over there? Also, who's making money? I mean, we sort of hear bits and pieces of that, but why are people interested in perpetuating this war? So I think if we could follow a little bit in more detail the economic forces that are driving a lot of the developments, that would really change the way people perceive things. I think in terms of climate change, there certainly are energy companies that really are very resistant to change because it's not necessarily in their interest, in the immediate interest. But I think if we could really get clear who's benefiting and who's not benefiting in the long term and the short term, it would be very helpful.